Hi, this is Margie with Communicating Today's Way, and I'm happy to be talking to you about how to build trust both online and offline. And let me share, first of all, that I am not a psychologist nor a psychiatrist. I am a communicator, and I am well experienced in connectivity. I have over 20 years of consulting, design, and implementation of voice and data networks for multinational Fortune 500 companies. A lot of connectivity there. In those same 20 years, I did sales and marketing of those large voice and data networks and for multinational Fortune 500 companies. A lot of communications and connectivity there. In the year 2000, I left corporate and I taught myself how to code, and I created websites for small businesses, a lot of connectivity there. And that was the beginning of Communicating Today's Way, which I took forward by focusing on the development of content and messaging for newsletters, email, social media, the training of all those platforms, where today we focus explicitly on communications, the content and messaging, verbal and written, online, offline, marketing, internal operations, large and small businesses. So a lot of communications and connectivity there. What I discovered about myself in all these years is that I do see links to objectives that many others will miss. I see all those little pieces that go into the makings of what's happening, and I love to work with them and rearrange them, add some new pieces, and create very tightly layers of connectivity that will take clients to their objectives. And I have my byline that I saw a constant from my very early days in Fortune 500 companies that stood true in small businesses and large companies of today. Good communication is good business. That's my byline. And it's true. If you don't have the communication, you don't have the business. And trust is a key element for good business and plays its role in communications as well, of course. So let's talk about trust, okay? What is trust? Put together some definitions here from Google. A set of behaviors that depend upon each other, a feeling of confidence and security that someone cares, an emotional brain state, not just an expectation of behavior, a believing in each other, in someone, in something. Note, as it says here, one can trust in good and bad. Okay, so an example of bad is that you can trust that someone will always be late for a meeting. You can trust that you will never get good service at a specific restaurant. And you want to have words that will connect you to the element of trust. Keep it in your mind. Honesty, integrity, humbleness, calmness are some of the ones I came up with, along with consistency, facts, balance, neutral, openness, love, safety, security, sincerity, all words that trigger the trust element in my mind. You might have some other ones, but it's important to have these words and be aware of their connectivity to trust, because trust is everywhere. It is central to everything. No one was more blown away than myself when I started looking at trust and putting together my first talk on trust. It is in everything we do. It's every activity, every decision has a trust factor to it. And it's just so subliminal. We don't think about it. It's just there, but it's there. And it's in family and relationships, politics, religion, medical services, auto repair services, everything. And when I was working on that first talk, I heard it on TV shows, in the dialogue. My church did a sermon on it. I mean, all of a sudden, trust was showing up everywhere. And think about it. It's an element in everything. And in business, I think we all are very aware that trust plays a very big role in successful business. And it's tossed around a lot. I hear it in passing with all the remote and hybrid offices. Managers must trust their employees must trust their managers, companies must trust the clients must trust the companies. Big glue out there, and it's glue to everything, again, that we do. But as much as we talk about it, we leave it in many cases as a subliminal item. We're not really focused on achieving it, establishing it, building it. It kind of comes with the rest of everything we do. And again, I'm wrong in some cases, but if this applies to you, then you're in the right talk, okay? Because this is what I want to talk to you about. What would happen if we did give it more attention, if we did focus on creating it? So let's talk about that. We all want to be trusted. I think that's a given. And so the where, when, and how of trust beginning includes where, at the very first point of contact with a person, service, facility, organization, or a website, what have you. The first sight, the first sound, the trust begins, okay? It's the opening of trust happening. And the tip here is first impressions count. It's an old adage, but one that holds true. And then when it happens is the first interaction at that first point of contact. So presentation and delivery counts, okay? What is said? How is it said? What are the words that come in first when you read it, when you hear it? What is the delivery, and what is the presentation and the delivery, the tone of the voice, the presentation of the words on the paper, the spacing and element of expression in the written presentation. So that's all happens, that all feeds the opening of trust being able to happen. I'm not saying that establishes trust. There's much more that goes into that, but it opens the door. It opens the platform for trust to happen, okay? It's the opening of the door. And then how does trust begin for ourselves as individuals? Usually with something we like, what attracts us, what we're attracted to. So in a business scenario where there's two people, what you have in common that you both like, what you have in common that you're both attracted to, positive stuff, a shared interest, problem-free, non-threatening. You don't want to try to establish trust in a threatening arena. You're just going to possibly come out on the left foot and have to start from behind. So you want to start trust in that positive arena, and where there's something that you're sharing and you agree, you have agreement on something, okay? And then how do we initiate it? Trust me. I'm going to take you to levels of success you've never experienced before. The old shark method doesn't work anymore. No, you have to know how to build trust authentically, and hopefully I can give you some pointers today. So what you can do is you can be keenly aware of your purpose. All good communications have a purpose. We start out, what is the purpose of our meeting? What is the purpose of our conversation? What is the purpose of this sentence? And so you know where you're going. So when we go into a first business meeting, online, Zoom, on the phone, we often have a purpose of what can we achieve in this meeting for future business. Well, I want to find out all their needs. I want to find out if they're a match. And those are all well and good. But I want you to put aside those purposes and have your very first purpose be, I want to establish opening to trust. I want to set a platform for trust to happen in this meeting and have it go set so it's going to go in the right direction, in a positive direction as it grows. And so first thing you can do is create the awareness of that purpose. And with that, have an open mindset. You want to be totally open and non-judgmental. It's going to show in your voice on the phone and your body language on Zoom and in person. You want to be open, non-judgmental, agenda-free. They're going to assign you an agenda. You don't need to bring one with you. And just be, I'm here to really just find out what's what. You know, whatever happens, happens, but let's just find out. Let's identify what's here. And then what we're going to do. So all is okay. All is open. And just be and stay in the moment. Be in the immediate present moment that you're in that conversation, in that meeting, okay? So be aware of your purpose of creating trust. Have an open mindset. Be non-judgmental. Just be in the moment. Keep the words in mind that keep you on track and connected to the trust factor. And then identify what's going on in that immediate moment that you have in common so you know what to open your conversation about. So the external boundaries for what you're going to come up with is the industry you're in, okay? You're meeting for business because you share some element of the business world. So whatever that element is, that's your boundary for where your external boundary for coming up with topics. And your most immediate boundary is what is immediately in front of you that you have in common, the link. So on Zoom, it would be Zoom. On the phone, it would be the phone. In person, it would be the office where you're sitting in, okay, what's happening right there. And then between those boundaries, you have options to work with. So maybe it's the day's news, the industry happenings, the company. The pandemic was great. I remember having talks with people in different countries on LinkedIn, and we shared lockdown experiences. We were all sharing at the same time, creating great connectivity for future relationship building. Sports, use of LinkedIn, the job position, company lunch. But here's the important thing. What you're going to do, once you know what you're going to talk about, you're going to share what you have in common, decide what you found that you have in common. You're going to share that with a question addressing the other person's interest in what you have in common with a sincere and honest attention to their answers. So you're going to share this, what you have in common by asking a question to the person you're talking to about their interest in what you have in common with a sincere, honest attention to their answers. Share what you have in common with a question addressing the other person's interest in what you have in common with sincere, honest attention to their answers. Okay. All right, said that 3 times. All right, so a little sidebar here and give you more guidance at where I'm coming from. These are 7 layers of connectivity within human development. I adapted them from a standard that had 7 layers that was used in all the equipment I worked with in my corporate voice and data networking days. And it's used today in many electrical products. If you're on a computer, it's in that computer connecting from what comes in the plug, going through the different layers to what you see on the screen. And it was designed and developed by a human being, so it speaks to how the human being works. And I've adapted it to stages of human growth. I can spend all day talking to you about it, but I won't. I'm going to keep it simple for purposes of today's topic. And there's basically 7 layers. So I've been focusing in on this public self up here, layer 7. And this is the top arena where things are positive and you don't have a threatening environment in most cases. You can find something in common where both parties are apt to come, be pleasant and agree and find some commonality and open the door for trust to be established and grow. Okay, so how do we get to the public self? So let's go down here to layer 1. We're all born with a sex, skin color, DNA. Some have disabilities, sorry to say, but they are born that way, and some not, lucky ones. Then we form our being from the food we're given, the nourishment we're given, love or lack of love, language, all those things that form our being. And then we are influenced by our home environment. What's happening in the home? What are the customs in the home? What is the behavior in the home? And then we grow old enough to go to church and school and get influenced by those outside entities in the community, the internet, the radio, TV. Then we become an adult in layer 5 here and have life happen, marriages, divorces, sickness, health, success. travel, all these different things that come into making us be who we are at this presentation layer, which is where most of us are every day. We get up and we're in our presentation layer. We're a component of all these other layers of influence on ourselves, but we're focused on our job and what our schedule is for the week, what our interests are, what's happening, what we're doing, how we're living our present day life. But again, a product of all these other experiences in life. And then we have our public self, okay? So in business, we're all showing up at work on our presentation there, but we have a first meeting with someone, or you have your first meeting, with the person you're talking to. You put on your jacket, or before a Zoom meeting, comb your hair. You have your business attire on, right? You get a little spiffed up. You be your best self, okay? You rise to the occasion of that first impression counts. And I've had meetings with somebody at the presentation layer where they're a bit grouchy. Something triggered them and they went to a lower level and they became a grouch for the day. But for the most part, people are in their public self and willing to be congenial. And that's where I want you to be. I want you to work in that public self layer and find a common topic. And I don't want you to work with small talk in that layer. I'm not talking small talk here as for what you have in common. I call it real talk. So when you find that topic that you both share, make it be real. Sometimes you have to do a little homework to be prepared and be able to be flexible depending on what's happening in that immediate moment. But make it be real talk, something that you have in common and agree on and share a likeness for that will be in that public self layer, okay? You don't want to talk about something that will put them on defense or trigger an emotion. If you try and come down to something in a lower layer, as you heard they have an interest in something, if it's not in that immediate moment, don't bring it up because you don't know what it might trigger. It could trigger anything. You'll get to these lower layers in time. As you create your relationship, all of this will come out as you develop the trust and get to know the people more and more and more. But in this initial moment where you're opening the door to trust and you want to set the stage, so to speak, so it goes forward, you want to find something that you share in common within that immediate moment at the public self layer. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So back to the topic at hand here. All right, so when you have that conversation, don't use I. It's not about you. It's about them, okay? It's all about them. No use of I. And use words that will trigger reactions from them. What will they respond to? Not what you respond to, but what will they respond to? And make your first 5 words count, whether you're in person or online or even in a written format. If you're sending communications in a written format, make the first 5 words count, even in initial conversation, live conversation. Too many filler words, people drop off. They stop listening. They don't hear. Make the first 5 words count. Get to your point. Be clear. And then, again, can't say it enough, look for the most immediate information, situation, activity that you are sharing, have in common in the moment. Where is the closest link? Envision like a chain, a link in a chain that connects you to this person. What is the closest link? So here are some examples. At a networking event, and it could be an online breakout room, it could be a mixer in person, but what you have in common is the networking, right? You're there to find new business, hopefully some win-win scenarios, everyone sharing, networking to find new business for themselves, and maybe others if you're nice. But so someone comes up to you and or you go up to someone and you're sharing the networking experience, and you are sharing the experience, and you're going to ask the question that relates to their interest in what you are sharing, and listen authentically and sincerely. And so the question you might ask is, how can I help you? What is your business looking for tonight? What are you trying to get from the mixer? Share with us. And if you listen and are sincere and authentic, that will open up a platform for trust to happen, okay? The beginning of trust will happen. Manager to remote employee. Now, real life probably has more accurate scenarios or useful scenarios, but hypothetically, this would be a first meeting to review a new project that the employee's been working on, first follow-up meeting. And so the manager sets up a Zoom meeting. And so the thing they have in common, the closest link they have is Zoom, okay? You don't want it to be the project, because the project it's a lower level. It's at least that presentation level, okay? And it's a lower level that can have pros and cons to it. So you don't want to go there. It's a lower level. And staying in that high public level, what you have immediately in common is the Zoom link, okay? And so the manager might say, thanks for today's conversation. Looking forward to discussing, having it with you. But before we go there, I want to know, the company's been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, and we're getting input, and everything from people really are not liking it to people appreciate it. I myself have mixed reactions to it. Sometimes it helps me, keeps me from traveling. Sometimes it's a pain. But I wanted to know from you, what are your thoughts on it? Any Zoom fatigue? What's happening with you with the Zoom meetings? And so that's a conversation that they're both sharing. He's sharing his input. The manager's giving permission for the employee to go from not liking it to liking it and everywhere in between. It's okay. They're gathering that input. It's open-minded, non-judgmental. This is what we're gathering. Where are you in this? Share with me, and I would love your input on it. And so it can open up the platform, the door for trust to happen, okay, and go forward in a positive direction, especially when they get to that talk on the project. Okay, so hope that helps. Building trust in teams. I've seen this working, experienced it myself. You have a new team. What they have in common is they work for the same company, they work for the same team. The team meets around a table, and each team member shares what brought them to the company and what brought them to the team. And then you find the common denominator between all of them at the end, and you have that link between them that is the platform of trust that you can go with some forward and backwardness there, but you have that initial layer of connectivity that you can build from, and the trust that comes with sharing and being open about yourself in front of everyone else. So I hope that gives some value to those who are working with teams. And then salesperson to prospect, this is really like a cold call scenario. And honesty is the best policy. Getting to the point is the next best policy with cold calls. And so I find that asking immediately what my sharing my purpose of the call has been most effective for me. And a question that you might ask, something that they have in common, that you're going to ask the question that addresses their interest in what you share in common, is what I have here. The blanks are for a shared interest in financial services and accounting, okay? So the question might be, I'm calling to find out if there's any existing needs in financial services and accounting. I know you work in those areas, and I myself work in those areas. Are there any needs for improving what's happening at the company? And then that's a shared interest that you can hopefully get. If you're honest, they'll be honest in return and be respectful in return, because you're respecting their time. And the tip here is don't use you. Don't ask, are you having any needs? Do you have any needs for financial services and accounting services? Because that puts them on the defense. They're hearing, are you ready to buy? Will you buy from me? I'm selling. That's what they hear. So you don't use you. You put it out to, are there any needs at the company? What's the company doing? Okay, use the company as your connecting entity and give that a try. So opening conversations that set the stage and open the door for trust to be established and grow are honest conversations, sharing immediate links, topics that attract due to interests and objectives, like interests and objectives, having something in common with the person. Look for all those elements, okay? And then trust will stay part of the whole growth with that client prospect as you go forward. And the next stage is adding credibility. And what happens in this purpose is you want to bring up a specific that hits home with the prospect, causes a high five, touches their heart. I call it bait on the hook, something they can't help but bite on because it's so connected to them. And bottom line, it lets them know that you get them. So you can bring it up later on in that first meeting, maybe it's a second meeting when you get to credibility, but that's when you're building the credibility and the trust factor just gets deeper and stronger. And you want to do it after trust, though. If you can. Offline, it's easier to have that control than online. But there was a salesperson I worked with a long time ago, and he worked in New York City, and he was a charmer. And he would go into his first appointment and sit down and say, can we cross off rapport? And the client would love it. Say, yes, that's just not, I don't want to do 15 minutes of small talk. Nobody likes small talk. But let's just get to the purpose here. I know why you're here, and let's do it. And it worked like a charm. But he jumped the gap. He started with credibility, and it worked for him. He could go back and fill in those gaps to establish the trust factor. Or he did it simultaneously, but he didn't have that stronger base that you can get with focusing on a true awareness and attraction platform. And but not everyone has the charm that he had to do that. So you want to avoid starting with credibility items or mixing credibility with trust at the same time, because you will have that gap. You're best to start focusing on attract and trust and then adding the credibility. And again, offline, that you have that control. Online, it's more difficult. We'll discuss online very shortly here. Like no. Okay, so these are online postings. So for building trust, again, we're trying to create awareness. We're trying to bring, I call the fishes to our water, let people know that they swim in our waters are what they swim in, and come visit our waters where we like the same things. And so what I have my clients do is create these text images, make about 20, 25 that will rotate amongst other content. Definitely not the same thing over and in one after the other. They're mixed up. But these simple text images that are their branding colors and their logo. This particular client does training and consulting for Accents in the workplace, and individuals as well as businesses that want help with multiple employees. And so we're just looking for people who have an interest and attraction to accents, and they share an interest in accents for whatever the reason. We've got accents in the workplace, so that's what we're trying to attract. That's our magnet, let's say, and we're just putting it out there. We have no expectations of a like or anything. We're not selling, and they're not shopping, and we're just letting them know that Bonnie Beret Company works with accents, and if they have accents in the workplace, they say you have to see it 14 times. So we have just these little statements about accents, and if they agree with them, they share they share in the message, and they like the message. It's the beginning of opening the door to trust. So this particular message is no wonder accents vary endlessly. There are over 332 million of them. Another one is accents are how cultures come together. Very simple. They can read without reading. They can see without looking. And it just subliminally will go by them, and then eventually they pay attention and more attention and more attention, and hopefully they click through and pursue her. That is the strategy there. But the purpose is strictly to develop an attraction. We want to attract the people that when credibility comes to play, this is other content that's out there, and this is why you have no control. They might see this before they see the attract content based on what goes in their feed. But again, people who are interested in attraction, we're picking a specific. This is customer support. Customer support employees, are your customer support employees easily understood? So this is a specific, and out of all the people that are interested in accents, we're trying to connect to those who have customer support people and let them know we get some of the headaches that come with employees that are great with their technical knowledge but have an accent that could cause a problem in the total success of their services, their service that they give. So that's one, and then we have this one that speaks for itself. That is just what accents, if you have a lot of different accents in one single workplace, it can cause some question and affect the quality of communications that's going on. Okay, so those are some of the specifics for the credibility factor. But you have all these stages. So the attract is the trust, and the trust just develops through all the rest of the stages. The credibility builds greater trust along with the credibility. At some point, they will shop. They will want your services or want to know about them. And what you want to do when they say, gee, I want to hear more about what you do, and you say, well, what are you needing? Where are you coming from? What are you looking at? And they share that with you, and then you share the results that you deliver. You want to talk results when they start asking you about what you offer first, okay? Make sure you talk results. That's what they will listen to. And then they'll want to know how you get those results, and you can dive into your products and your services and all the details of both. If you start with that, they might lose interest because they haven't heard what that's going to deliver them, okay? So you want to deliver the results first, share the results first, then to deliver the detail. And the trust will continue to build. The trust just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you get to the final details of putting things together to do business with each other, the payment plan, the training, the delivery, added value. And the trust factor is strong on both sides of the business relationship. And you have a client that's going to be new, repeat, and referral business. They trust you, you trust them. The trust factor is at its strongest level. So that's how it works. So awareness of your purpose. Have a purpose for creating trust. See what happens, even in your personal life. Have an open mindset. Be open, non-judgmental, and relax and have fun with that open mindset. Be consistent. And know it's not about you. It's about who you're talking to. It's all about who you're talking to. Nothing to do with you. All about them. Even though you're sharing the interest, it's about them. How it affects, how this item you share, what is of interest to them in the item that you share, okay? And then honesty is the best policy. Be genuine, be authentic, and be vulnerable. Vulnerability plays a big role in authenticness, and authenticness opens the door to trust. So be vulnerable. It's okay. And with that, I thank you for watching my video. I'm happy to answer any questions. Call me, send me an email. I'm happy to give you a complimentary consultation, review what you're doing with your communications, let you know what you're doing well, let you know where there might be some weak links in there. And I do a lot of custom programs. You'll see my set programs on my website, including my content and messaging program. for both standalone and for use on LinkedIn. But I also do customized programs. I'm happy to talk to you about that. So again, thanks for watching the video. I hope it helped you. Hope you can go out there and start creating strong doors to strong levels of trust in your client relationships. And have a good day.